Hello everyone, TimeToGrind here, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about the defensive heroes and kind of where they fit into the meta. Now, a few days ago, someone by the name of DaTrutho made a really good post on both the competitive Overwatch subreddit and just the normal Overwatch subreddit, pretty much talking about, in terms of like actual professional players and the kind of meta that they, play in, how bad the defense heroes actually are. So today I kind of wanted to look at his post, kind of explain a little bit of it, and kind of give my thoughts on it and stuff like that. So pretty much what overall it is if you guys don't know, is in like, so of course this doesn't really apply too much to just normal, even like say rank 60, rank 70, but when you start getting up and actually start, playing actual tournaments and there's like, really huge teams and stuff like that, this is where this is kind of actually being played, into effect and stuff like that. That's this meta that I'm gonna kind of talk about. So it does affect, the normal game a little bit, but I'll get to that in later in the video. But pretty much overall, in the last like say 3 or 4 weeks, the pick rate for like all defense heroes is awful. I'm pretty sure he said the highest pick rate out of all of them was Junkrat, and he was only being picked in 1% of games, and that's a little ridiculous. So pretty much, he was analyzing all this stuff, and most teams on the attacking side, the kind of team composition they tend to pick are the main tank, off-tank, flanker, mid-range DPS, healer, and off-healer. Now, most of those are pretty much what they sound like. The main tank is, kind of big tanky people like Reinhardt or Zarya, stuff like that. Off-tanks are kind of the other tanks that you might want to pick depending on the circumstance, like, Roadhog or D.Va. So say, on Ilios, you kind of a lot of the time want a Roadhog because of how the maps are designed and stuff like that. Flankers are your, just flankers, like your assault heroes like Genji or Tracer, possibly Reaper, kind of stuff like that. Mid-range DPS is your DPS that can do, mid-range damage. So lately that's been McCree. It's only been McCree. Every team needs a McCree. We're back to that state of the meta. Earlier, a few patches ago, it was like that. They nerfed his right click a ridiculous amount, and he was awful. And they actually, they played around with him in the last 2 patches. Pretty much now, he no longer has damage fall off, but then they took it away. So he doesn't have damage fall off to a certain extent, and they actually just shortened that extent. But his right click is actually usable again because they nerfed it so hard that it was actually more feasible to flash someone and then just headshot them, and it still is in certain circumstances. A lot of the time, say you flash a Tracer, you can just get it over with and done by headshotting the Tracer once after a flash, but there's definitely a reason to use your right click now, which is really good. And then you have your healer and off healer, and they both do exactly what they sound like. So he kind of went into detail for each, and just to also get this out of the way, this Reddit thread will be in the description below if you want to actually look at it completely in depth. I'm just kind of going at it at face value and kind of giving my thoughts on it and my spin on it. But if you want to look at the actual original post, that'll be in the description below. All that good stuff. So pretty much, there's a reason like a lot of the defensive heroes aren't being picked a lot because like at the highest level of the game, if you have 2 evenly matched teams, the attackers are going to win, and that's just because of, like I've said before, the snowballing nature of Overwatch. On control points, you win a single team fight, that's the control point. You got it, and you only need to win 2 technically team fights on average to win a game on offense on control points. On King of the Hill, you win that first team fight, or you win a team fight, you take control of the control point, and it's really hard to get those back. That's a lot of pros have kind of been complaining about King of the Hill because of how snowbally they are. You win a single team fight, that's it. You have it for quite a while. And then payload's a little bit better, but even if you win, a team fight as the offense, you're going to push the payload a decent amount. And so the defense heroes, the reason why they're still being played, decently in lower tiers of the game, like, even where I play, there's a reason why they're being played there and not in the super high skill ceiling, where pros play, and there's a very obvious good reason for that, in my opinion. And I think that's because, and he said a little bit of this, is because when you're a pro, you kind of have almost perfect accuracy. You know, you're a pro for a reason. You can hit almost every shot, if not every shot. You know, you have really great positioning and all that stuff. And because of how snowbally this game is, you're on offense, and you know, you're gonna pick a lot of people that can kill the enemies, so you can win a team fight. So that's why defense heroes aren't picked too much on offense. But you might be wondering, well, why aren't defense heroes picked on defense? And the reason for that is because at the highest levels of the game, the pros understand that one team fight is all it takes to change the entire game. And because of that, it's more important to kill the enemies than do other things. And so every defense hero kind of has a little niche they fill. Like as an example, Torbjorn, he's really great for people that fly up in the air, or really great for flankers. Now personally, like on Volskaya Industries, when I'm defending that first point, I'll normally pick up a Torbjorn on our team and put him on the, normally I play him, and I'll put a turret on the very, very right, the little secret route that a lot of flankers try to go through, because it stops that. But the thing is he can't do as much as other, heroes can do in terms of a team fight, in terms of killing the enemies as fast as possible. Now, of course, do I think his shotgun is great and his, normal gun? Yeah, I think it's amazing. But it's just not as good as, say, someone like, a McCree or a Reaper or stuff like that, in terms of killing the enemies faster. And that's what it comes down to. You need to kill the enemies in order to not lose a single team fight, because that's all it takes. And that's also why a lot of people are kind of calling for stopwatch, because in the higher tiers of the game or whatever, normally the offense wins, and it's just kind of who wins first. But that's the completely different topic of the video, or topic for a different video. And so, you might be like, because in the last few weeks we haven't really seen any defense heroes, the most being Junkrat with the 1% of games. But the thing is it wasn't always like that. As an example, probably about 4 or 5 patches ago, Widowmaker was picked like in 80% of games, and she got nerfed. There was a time kind of when the game came out when Bastion was actually being picked a decently amount. He was being, put in front of or behind a Reinhardt and a Mercy damage boosting him. And that's one thing I do like about this game, is the kind of ever-changing meta. And I really like that, having to worry about the team compositions, because it's really interesting in a shooter like this. But currently, so, although there are, good defense heroes that were played at some point or another, no one's being played now. So Bastion, it's gone down, ridiculously amount, just because he used to actually be played. Hanzo, the reason why Hanzo's not being played is because there was kind of a hidden part of one of the patch notes, and one of the last 3, I forget which one it was, but they actually made the hitboxes for projectiles smaller, because the hitboxes were a little bigger than the projectiles themselves, which actually made Hanzo really great, because his arrows, had a way better chance of actually hitting the target, so that hurt him. May is like, the Reddit thread, he even says that May is the worst character in the game in his opinion, and it's my opinion too. It's just, she can't do, she does a few things decently well, but she doesn't do anything really great. Her slow is way too slow at slowing, and I kind of understand that, because if you make it like instantly start slowing and really fast, they're already frozen, it's going to be annoying, because although I hate May, I think she's one of the worst heroes in the game, she's annoying. She's the most annoying character in the game, even though she's the worst. And her ultimate is awful. It's just, sometimes it can be good, but it's kind of equivalent to the Diva, the old Diva ult, except the old Diva ult was better, because all Maze does is in small range, it's like, hey, you can't go in this. And it's like, oh, you actually got caught in it? Oh, no, I'll give you like a second or two to actually get out of it. You have to sit there for like 5 seconds before it actually does anything impactful. Whereas Divas, it'd be like, yeah, I'm not going to hit anyone because everyone's going to run away in the 4 seconds. But if you did hit someone, they're dead. May, it's like, oh, if you do hit someone, we'll give them a second or two to get out of it. And it's not... it's just not impactful at all. It did what Diva's ult used to do, which is like get away from this area, but it's not punishing them not getting out of the area. you know, and Torbjorn, his, you know, the Reddit thread, you know, even said, like, if you can actually aim, he can kill enemies really, really well, but he doesn't have any way to survive. You know, he has his armor packs that give 75 armor each, but that's not enough for him to survive. He doesn't have an escape. If someone comes up in his face, best he can do is try to you know, put a turret right down on the ground, and then it gets destroyed immediately because it only has 5 health at the beginning, and then Torbjorn's dead because he has nothing else to do. And one kind of side note that I think would actually be good with Torbjorn is make it where his turret does a lot more damage, but it takes time to actually choose targets, because right now it's like instantly switching targets, instantly locks onto you, but it doesn't do that much damage. The only time it really kills you is if you're like up in the air as a, you know, a Pharah, and you can't really get down fast, or, you know, you're a flanker and you don't have that much health. That's the only time it really kills you. Otherwise, it's just kind of annoying. So, like I said, this is only at the highest tiers of the game, you know, where the pros play, but it does actually affect, you know, lower, like, us as well, because although I do pick up, you know, I actually play a lot of Junkrat. He's probably in my top 4 or 5 heroes played, because I play him as kind of an offensive hero-ish, and I just do a ridiculous amount of damage with him. And I think his traps are ridiculous. Like his snare trap, like you could snare someone, that's a free kill. And so that's kind of always been, you know, so we do pick up defense heroes, like with my team and stuff, but there's never a point where you're like, oh, we need this defense hero. We need, you know, because, like, as an example, let's go through. Bastion, okay? Well, why would you ever need a Bastion? There's nothing he brings to the table that no one else brings. Yeah, he can kill people really, really fast, but so can a McCree that has good aim, or a Soldier 76 that has good aim. Hanzo, why would you pick Hanzo when you could have Widowmaker? In fact, you know, or not Widowmaker McCree, but, you know, Widowmaker is better than Hanzo. So the only time to really pick him is when you kind of want a really decent ult, I guess, but there's better ults than that. Mei, there's no reason you would ever want a Mei, really, other than maybe at the very, very end when you're trying to extend overtime to get in your ice block thing. But even then, you could just pick Reaper and do the same thing with the Shadow Walk. Symmetra, you know, her teleporter's really, really good at times, but the thing is why not just pick a Mercy? Because Symmetra's shields that she gives are just hilariously bad. They nerfed them down from 50. Like, when they were 50, yeah, that was actually good. 25 doesn't matter at all, especially since Zenyatta doesn't. The only thing it helped was Zenyatta not getting insta-killed by a Widowmaker body shot. That doesn't happen anymore. So those shields are just laughable. And her ultimate, it feels like her ultimate was... It's good, but it's way too easy to get destroyed. You know, if you get even near an enemy's teleporter, everyone on your team starts shouting that there's a teleporter, and you can hear the little buzzes and whirls and all that stuff of the teleporter, and you can find it easily if you're a flanker. So the teleporters are gonna die unless you put it really far back, and in which case, it's not really helping that much. And it's just, you might as well pick a Mercy, because Mercy's ult is infinitely better and it does almost the same thing, and she can actually heal and deal damage. Because, frankly, her turrets are awful as well. You know, on average, they're annoying. That's it. You just like, oh, you look up and you kill someone. The only time they do anything is if someone doesn't know they're there. But if you see a Symmetra, you should generally know where she's putting the you know, turrets, and then it's not that hard to actually, you know, get rid of them. And the fact that she can only have she can have 6 at a time, but she only gets 3 to begin with. She can only hold 3, and so that makes her really bad. Like Widowmaker, why would you pick Widowmaker when you could have, you know, a McCree? Like, Widowmaker's ult is really good, but it's not game changing. It's one of those ults that you kind of, it's a win more ult for me, in my opinion, because it does nothing for you if you're losing, but it's actually really good if you're winning, and it can help you keep winning and keep snowballing, but it doesn't bring anything to the table of, oh, I'm gonna go capture us this point back, whereas a lot of people's ults are like, okay, well, I could use this on defense or offense, and either way, I'm still helping out my team a lot. So, you know, it's just the no defense hero has something. They don't. No defense hero brings something to the table that is completely game changing. That's all it is. You know, in my opinion, I think all of them should be buffed a little bit. Not to the point where, because the thing is they are still being picked in, you know, not extremely high competitive levels of the game, and if you buff them too much, then now they're ridiculous in, you know, the low skill levels of the game and, you know, average, because you have to think about that as well. And, you know, it's been proven with game after game, if you're trying to balance a game after the highest competitive, you know, way people play, it doesn't work very well. It's not a healthy way to balance things. You want to look at everything, you know, including the newer players, the veterans, and the average people. You want to balance stuff like that. And so I think most of them, like, there's a few heroes that I think need complete reworks. Like Symmetra, I think she needs to be completely reworked. I think her, you know, teleporter needs to work in a completely different way, possibly not be able to die. I don't think the teleporter should be able to die, or at least be very hard to die. Her turrets need to either do something else, or, you know, I don't know. And most of all, her shields need to change. Her shields are laughable. Torbjorn, I think his turret needs a really big rework. I think Widowmaker needs something, you know, something to make her playable again. I think, you know, when she was playable, you would never pick a Hanzo. So there's a lot of things that need to happen. Not necessarily just buffs, but I think overall every hero needs a tiny bit of a buff, but more than likely reworks. So people, like, there's a reason to pick them rather than just being like, oh, I could pick McCree and do the same thing, but better. And stuff like that. So that's just kind of my opinions on this whole, like, you know, defense heroes not being very great. And for most of you, including myself, it doesn't really affect me, because I can pick up a, you know, defensive hero and be, you know, I can do good with them. But it's just always that you could pick someone else to do that job as well. And it's just, you know, it kind of makes it where they're not really needed. Like, those heroes aren't really needed. Like, Mercy, Lucio, Zenyatta, Ana, they all have really, really useful, you know, situations where they're great at. And it doesn't really feel that way for the defensive heroes, especially when watching tournaments and competitive games and stuff like that. So that's just kind of my little discussion on defensive heroes. If you guys have any other different opinions or kind of points I didn't maybe touch on, you know, feel free to leave them down in the comments down below. I love to hear all that stuff. And I don't comment, or I don't reply to every comment now, but I do I do read every single one. And yeah, so if you have a, you know, huge idea, or, you know, something that I maybe didn't talk about, feel free to tell me. And if you enjoyed this video, then consider leaving a like down below and subscribing to see more Overwatch content and news. And like always, guys, see you next time.